Hello tribe. How are you today, my friends? Do you want to be a part of making a difference in the world? Have you been feeling a bit powerless in the face of change, turmoil, trauma? And it kind of feels like it hits us from every side, right? When we start to be faced with the huge energy changes that are occurring on our planet, we have a few options. We have the option of closing down, retreating, making ourselves numb, distracting, going up in arms, being angry and defensive. And not many of them actually allow us to make a difference. And whilst I'm a supporter of people actively doing things to try and create change, and petitions and marches and stating that things are injustice in the world, I also am the biggest advocate for us actually looking after ourselves first and foremost. Because if you aren't coming from your center space, from your heart space, if you aren't at your highest possible frequency, if you don't have the tools and practices and techniques to work through that which comes to you, you're not actually helping anyone, let alone yourself, let alone the world. How do we come back into ourselves when we are feeling sad and angry and distraught at what's going on around us? How can we be the best version of ourselves? How can we wake up in a high frequency state? Starting to look at what you allow into your world, what you allow into your energy frequency. Now, I spoke on their page the other day about energy leaks. And it is so important to understand where our energy is going. Our energy is as real as your bodies, as anything physical we can touch. It has more power than anything we know. And the more energy conscious we are, the more energy wise, and the more we have energy hygiene practices, the better off we are able to manage what we let into our field, and more importantly, where we're putting our energy. So when I talk about energy leaks, it's like I choose not to watch the news because it affects my energy frequency so dramatically. But I understand that I want to also be informed. So I have to choose when and where I allow this kind of information in. So prior to getting out of bed in the morning, doing anything, I am protecting my energy field. I am clearing it of all negative energies, entities, thought forms, electrification. And I am creating that luminous energy field, that aura, that shell around my auric field, in order to have a protection around me. So that if I'm faced with news, or I'm going into an environment where there's heaps of people, or I'm even going into some place where there could be a confrontation of any description, it strengthens me. It's like an armor that I can put up, but it needs to be replenished. We need to do this as a daily practice. Now, I just pulled some cards in relation to this topic, and how this works for me energetically is I kind of get this question come in. It's like, how do I make a difference in this world? How I know other people want to help promote change, help to see this new earth birthing, help to make us work with the positive, with the love, with the light. But when there's so much darkness, we can feel like that light we're holding is dim amongst the cacophony around us. But it doesn't have to be. Your light, it like adds to everyone else's light. When we raise our frequency and when we do the things that we know make that frequency rise within us, it adds to the ripple effect. When someone comes across you via in person, via a live, via on phone, whatever, and they see you bubbling, they see your energy high, it affects their energy. It encourages them to step up into a little bit of a better part of themselves. And they in turn pass that on. This is how we raise consciousness on a global scale. And this isn't to say that you are not allowed to have your down days or be angry or just feel like it's hopeless. But don't stay there. Allow that to go in and come out. Often it's taking a part of that emotional frequency out of your being when you have the way to move it. Moving your body physically is so important. Using water, fire, earth, air. Use the elements to help move things. Use sound. If you've got a drum, beat that. Sing out loud. Moving energy is going to help you to keep navigating the terrain of this life. So retreat when you have to. Call on friends and family and loved ones for support when that's needed. We aren't meant to do this alone. It can feel very isolating when we spiritually awaken, because we're experiencing things for the first time often that are new and awakening, and it can be very scary, and it can feel like, well, I must be crazy, or no one else must feel these things. I know over the years of my different awakenings, for I feel that we have multiple awakenings, that I've gone through things that it's like, I can't tell anyone about this. I don't know how to share about this. But then when I did, the rewards were reaped. And when I started sharing more publicly about my journeys and what I'm experiencing, it made me realize that showing up in my vulnerability, in my rawness, in my realness was a way to encourage and give an invitation and give permission to other people to do the same. I've had one of my clients this morning actually sent me this gorgeous email about feeling the courage to just show up as herself in the public sphere, and that she's getting that feedback, that it's giving other people permission. And this is what I'm talking about, the ripple effect. You don't have to be doing any kind of major work to have an effect, to make a difference in this world. You actually just need to figure out how to connect to yourself, how to show up in your highest frequency. And sometimes having a day in bed is you doing what's in your best interests for your frequency. Nourishing self looks like so many things. I was also speaking to another client the other day about her wanting to tap more into her femininity and struggling to be able to just go and do pampering, like getting their nails done or their hair done, and not really enjoying it. And my feedback was that femininity doesn't mean self-pampering. It's about receptivity. It's about allowing things in, allowing people to help you, allowing comments, compliments to actually be received. When we're in our masculine, we're doing, it's action, it's forcing, and not necessarily in a bad way. Like, we need to shift in and out of those. I've spent very long days and long weeks putting all my effort and energy into bringing the conscious experience mentorship to life, which is what I'm launching right now. It's what I'm focused on. But I realized that I struggled to stop because I was afraid of the void space that would be. Because when we put everything into a project or our children or our work, when we have a moment away from that, it can feel a little bit empty because we don't have things filling our cup. So when that kind of hit on the weekend and I was like, wow, I need to stop, but I've got resistance to stopping. Why don't I want to stop? I recognize like this is what I'm cultivating, this emotional intelligence, this spiritual intelligence, this energetic intelligence of where I'm at. So my way of problem solving this is by journaling. I start by writing like what's going on. It's like I externally process really well. So when I'm processing things, I need to externalize it. Otherwise, it's going round and round in my head. I also have people I speak to and I talk to and say, this is what I'm feeling. And by talking it out loud, it helps me to move through and find the solution for myself. Because so often it's not someone else giving me an answer. It's me coming to that answer myself. So when we want to transform, we have to let go of parts of ourselves that can't come along for that journey. And that can feel a little bit sad. An example of this is I'm now 38 years old and our culture is very much focused on the era of the maiden. So the maiden, it goes maiden, mother, Marga, crone in terms of the life phases for a female. Boy, father, magoose, sage for the male. And when we move from maiden to mother, and this can happen around the age of 25, but it also can be brought on by actually becoming a mother, we can grieve that the maiden's gone, that we've lost that youth. And part of me had this sense that I'd actually been dragging around the corpse of my maiden for many years. And I actually went and did a ceremony. I did a letting go and a funeral for self, where I acknowledged the maiden for all she did and all she gave me and all that evolved from honoring her, but I let her go and I fully stepped into my mother phase. So there was a grief part of me going, wow, I'm never going to be that anymore. But a celebration as I stepped into this new phase, and it was like I stepped into my own inner queen. I found a new space to talk from. I found a new space to live from. I found a new space for my work to come from, because I was speaking from the place of a new level of wisdom. So as we go from the letting go through the transformation, we need to find places to have restoration, where we can restore the parts of ourselves that may have been discarded when we were young. Often we have a lot of fragments of ourselves, and this is what in the shamanic tradition we call doing soul retrievals, where we're pulling back the parts that we actually shunned or were taken away when we had traumatic experiences or emotional things happen to us. And when we bring those parts back, it's like we need a assimilation time, a time where we can come to terms with this new energy that's returned to us and what it means, what it's going to build for us. This is when we start to see our medicine, our magic come alive. For when we do the work on ourselves, when we face the shadows, we can awaken our gifts. This is actually another point I'd like to talk to, because it's come up a lot lately that people are afraid of their gifts. They've glimpsed things that they don't know how to explain. They don't know how they glimpsed it. They don't actually know how their gifts work. And they kind of shut it down. And a lot of people will experience that highly intuitive, highly sensitive, maybe hearing things, seeing things as a child. And then when they're growing up, they learn that that's not okay, and they've, pushed it away. How do we reawaken that? Or is it that you're only just discovering this, that you've never experienced this before and all of a sudden you just know things? Or you're getting visions in your head and it's like, am I imagining that? Where did that come from? I want to teach people how to trust this in themselves. I want them to embrace their gifts and then learn how to use them, learn how to strengthen them, and have a safe space in order to practice them. One of the best things I ever did was just bite the bullet and start doing one-on-one sessions with people. When I started to do this, and I firstly did it with friends or friends of friends, that showed me what I can do. And now, every single time I see a client, every time I hold a workshop, every time I speak, I'm learning a new thing about myself. Because we can get very addicted to being on the learning journey. Oh, I need to know this, I need this certificate, I'll study that modality, but never actually putting it into practice. Because there's a scared part of us. What if we fail? What if we mess up? What if it doesn't work? What if these gifts are all imaginary? How can you do it in a safe way so that when you are practicing your gifts, you feel expanded and alive and opened by them? Because this is how we make a difference in the world, when we actually show up, use our gifts, know ourselves, and have the tools and spiritual life toolkit so that no matter what comes your way, you've got capacity to deal with it. Because it's now, my friends, it is now the time to be the youest you that you've ever met. It's time for you to tap into future you. To tap in and say, hey, what did you do to get there? What did you do? Because I know that this is what we're going to create. How do we consciously create it now? How do we feel, act, do, speak, see? What's our perspective on the world? I'd like to leave you today with a little idea, a little gift. That if you want to create something, you need to feel into how you feel when you have it. What it feels like every day to have that thing. And this could be a physical thing. This could be a project. This could be a program you want to create. This is a job or a relationship. But that emotional sense, that visual sense, create it all, because that energy is where you're aligning to. And when you match your frequency to something, the universe can't help but take you to it, because you're an energetic alignment, an energetic match for it. So take this little tiny piece with you. And anytime you find yourself in the state of I want, change it to I have, and feel into what that is. This is how we change the world. This is how we make a difference with our lives. And I promise you that if you continue to do these practices, you continue to raise your frequency, you will change everything around you. The world will eclipse in front of your eyes, and you will be like, wow, I am magic and my medicine is needed. Thank you, my loves. Thank you for joining me today. I'm sending so much love to you all in all the places of the world you are, in all the frequencies that you find yourself in, and travel gently, look inside, and have the bravery to go deep. Love you. Bye.